Contaminated is the best map in Battlefield 6. I know that it sounds more like a subjective opinion, but hear me out. I took the time to analyze every single map in Battlefield 6 to find out the issues and the overall problems of the map design. Now, there have been people making great videos about this topic as well who mentioned the obvious problems, but I want to go more into detail and take a closer look to fill the missing gaps. And just like somewhere else, size isn't everything. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Kaan-Train. Please get yourselves comfortable and enjoy the ride. The maps of Battlefield 6 are considered as one of the worst in the entire franchise, speaking from the majority's perspective. And there are 4 simple reasons for that. Number 1 is the one we've all been talking about: size. You just can't take a break for how small and compact the maps are. Especially for vehicle gameplay, it's an absolute nightmare. On the small maps like Iberian Offensive and Cairo, you really struggle to get through with the tanks. And not to mention air vehicles. The fact that all the maps are pretty flat, making it very easy to take down the choppers and fighter jets, plus having a very small flying area, people really start to experience claustrophobia in the damn air. The maps are heavily focused on infantry gameplay, putting you in constant action without giving you time to process your situation or think strategically. Now, I'm not saying there ain't no big maps. We got Mirak Valley and Firestorm, 2 out of 12. Yeah, that's the problem. So my suggestion for the future: leave the maps in a game, but make the ones in the upcoming seasons a bit bigger. Something like Hamada, Sinai Desert, or Panzersturm. Now we come to a more interesting point, which is level design. When I take a look at those maps in BF6, I often ask myself, with what kind of intention were these maps made? Who the hell acknowledged a skyscraper on Sobek City to be right in front of the pack spawn? A huge sniper nest that can target enemies standing on every other objective. Or Foxtrot on Liberation Peak. Why does always one team have a better advantage than the other one? Now in Breakthrough, sure, it kinda makes sense. You wanna create an epic atmosphere, just like with Iwo Jima in BF5, where you start fighting on a beach and then move up to the highest point of the map. Liberation Peak tries something similar, although it feels like a Temu version of Iwo Jima, but it kinda works. On Conquest and Escalation, however, PAX keeps the upper hand. Foxtrot on top of the hill is pretty much impossible to capture for NATO, and with every game where both teams would be balanced, PAX would absolutely smoke them by keeping the high ground. Or same with Baker on Manhattan Bridge, an empty rooftop right in front of the NATO spawn. High advantage for NATO, death trap for PAX. And to be clear, the problem is not the existence of vantage points. It's how accessible they are. If you wanna make them, put them into the middle. Otherwise, make 2 on both sides. Or, screw that, give one team the vantage points and basically every objective at the beginning and remove their home base. So basically, Conquest Assault. Speaking of attacker and defender modes, Rush and Breakthrough are also poorly designed. Unlike in previous titles, Breakthrough and Rush in BF6 are designed with constant choke points that make flanking very hard. Now Breakthrough and Rush of course have to be one-sided, but just in comparison with Contaminated and Monte Grappa, you clearly see a huge difference regarding space. We had size, we had level design, and now we have the objectives. And this is probably the main reason that takes the fun out of the game. Now if I could describe capturing objectives in Battlefield 6 with one single picture, this would be it. Now again, I analyzed every single map, and I can tell you for sure, playing the objective in BF6 is nothing but punishment. Every single objective on every map in BF6, except the ones coming from Season 1 and Season 2, are literally nothing else but a death trap. Now, sure, technically, every objective is a hotspot. It's a fighting area. But in comparison with previous Battlefield games, it becomes more obvious. It's not just the location of the objectives, being too close to the spawn of one team and not symmetrical. It also depends on the assets placed on the objective. A well-placed position has always a defensive area. Walls, sandbags, trenches, all that kind of stuff. Normally, these assets are always on the outside of the objective, giving you a place to take position and wait for the attackers to show up. Sometimes you even have multiple buildings and some well-placed defensive guns. It's not entirely impossible to take the objective. You can always flank the enemy, but you have a position to lay back and actually defend the area. But now compared to the objectives in BF6, you usually have just one or two assets right in the middle of the objective that lays within certain walls. No barricades, no cover, sometimes not even windows to peek through. The objective area is nothing but an open space, with only minimal cover in the corners. The only effective way to defend and capture the objective when you're alone is to sit in the corner. Best example, Delta on Manhattan Bridge. The capture zone is only between those walls, with 300 doors and windows where the enemy can shoot through. Back in the day, in BF1 and BF5, Objective Delta would have been the whole building complex, the first and the second floor. So you could effectively capture it on your own or with one friendly without worrying about getting blasted in the next second. And this poor objective design leads to a very passive and campy playstyle, which can be extremely frustrating. And combined with point 1, the small map sizes, and point 2, the poor level design, it's definitely not an overreaction by the community, calling these maps the worst in the entire franchise. And the last and probably most important aspect that doesn't get enough attention is the so-called 3-liner rule. It says that if you get to a crossing point and have more than 3 ways where you can encounter some enemies, you will struggle to keep an eye on every single one of them, which makes it easier for the enemy to flank you. Now in a game like Call of Duty, where it depends on reaction time and speed, you want to have less than 4 ways on the map. However, in a game like Battlefield, where tactic and positioning is key, or should be key, you need more than 3 ways. But that of course only works if the maps are big enough. So if we now separate the 4 smallest maps in BF6 from the rest, being the New York and Gibraltar maps, we can clearly see that every single map is a 3-liner. Sobek City, Cairo, Mirak Valley, Firestorm, Eastwood, and Blackwell Fields and Liberation Peak even being a 2-liner. And this kind of formula results in a constant stalemate. The most hilarious part is that the smallest maps, the New York and Gibraltar maps, feature more than 3 ways. But because of their size, it's not big enough for effective flanking options. So the maps that are big enough have a bad layout, and the maps that are too small have a good layout. Every single map in BF6 is cursed, except for one. Contaminated is the only big 4-liner map. The mountain path, the main road, the burned forest, and the bunker. Of course, it's not entirely perfect. The size of the map is decent. Could be a little bigger though. The bunker system from Charlie should have been connected to the Hunger and Baker. Then it would have been a peak map. Don't get me wrong, talking about stalemates, it's not that we don't want it at all. It's the same thing with the big maps. It's the amount. There's a reason why Operation Locker is a fan favorite. But because of that, you can't expect every single map to play like that. It's about the healthy mix. And right now, it ain't looking too good. And so, the best way to fix this situation is to bring more bigger maps with balanced level designs, with more than 3 ways for proper flanking options, and well-designed objective points. And if you'd ask me, I would recommend DICE to make some tiny improvements on the current maps. Small reworks regarding the objective areas, turning the whole building into the objective, not just the courtyard. Just like Abel and Baker on Eastwood. Some small changes that make a huge difference. Now with that, ladies and gentlemen, don't be shy to leave a like and subscribe. I thank you for listening, I hope you enjoyed the ride, and I see you in the next video.